Jung made a radical observation that challenged both religion and psychology. Every human being carries what he called the God image within their psyche. Not metaphorically, not poetically, literally structured into the architecture of human consciousness. But here's what makes this tragic. We're systematically trained to forget it exists. From the moment we're born, every institution, education system, and social structure teaches us to look outside ourselves for what Jung discovered only exists within. We're taught to seek external validation when we carry internal authority, taught to follow outer guides when we have inner wisdom, taught we're broken and need fixing when Jung discovered we're whole and need remembering. This forgetting isn't accidental. Jung observed that society functions by keeping people disconnected from their inner divinity. If everyone remembered their divine gift, external authority would collapse. Organized systems depend on people forgetting their internal power. The economy runs on people seeking outside what they already possess inside. Jung spent his entire career watching patients search desperately for meaning, purpose, and direction everywhere except the one place it actually existed, within their own psyche. They'd spend fortunes on gurus, dedicate years to practices, devote themselves to teachings, all while the very thing they sought remained dormant inside them, waiting to be remembered. The divine gift never leaves. It can't leave because it's not something you have, it's something you are. But it can be so deeply forgotten that people live entire lives without accessing what Jung considered their birthright. Let me show you what this gift actually is and why we forget it exists. Jung's first discovery about the divine gift within shattered conventional psychology. There's a part of you that knows things you've never learned, understands things you've never studied, and solves problems your conscious mind can't even comprehend. He called this the self, not the ego self that says I, but a deeper intelligence that operates beyond personal consciousness. This self doesn't learn wisdom. It is wisdom. Doesn't acquire knowledge. It accesses eternal knowing. Doesn't develop over time. It exists outside time, fully present from birth to death. Think about moments in your life when you suddenly knew something without knowing how you knew, when the perfect solution appeared from nowhere, when you spoke wisdom you didn't know you had, when your body moved before your mind understood why. That's the self operating, the divine gift Jung said every human possesses. Jung discovered this through observing children. Before they're taught to distrust their inner knowing, children demonstrate uncanny wisdom. They know who's trustworthy and who's not. They understand complex emotional dynamics without explanation. They create profound art and stories from no external source. Where does this knowing come from? Not from experience, they don't have enough. Not from learning, they haven't studied. It comes from the self that knows without learning. But here's what happens. We're trained to ignore this inner knowing, told to think logically when intuition speaks, told to be realistic when inner wisdom guides, told to follow the rules when the self shows a different way. Year by year, we learn to distrust the divine gift within us until we forget it exists entirely. Jung worked with a businessman who'd built his fortune by following conventional wisdom, market analysis, expert advice, strategic planning. Then his business started failing despite doing everything right. In desperation, he came to Jung. Through their work, the man remembered something extraordinary. His greatest successes had never come from external expertise, but from moments when he'd followed inexplicable hunches. acted on irrational certainty, trusted knowing that made no logical sense. Jung helped him see that he'd been accessing the self unconsciously his whole life. The divine gift had been operating, creating his success through intuition he'd attributed to luck. But as he'd become more educated and sophisticated, he'd stopped trusting this inner knowing, and that's when his business began failing. The man learned to consciously access what he'd been unconsciously using. He stopped seeking answers outside and started listening inside. His business didn't just recover, it transformed into something beyond his imagination. Not through new strategies, but through remembering the divine gift he'd always had. This inner knowing operates in you right now. Every moment, the self is offering wisdom, guidance, solutions. But we've been trained to override it with logic, dismiss it as imagination, explain it away as coincidence. Jung discovered that people who remember this aspect of their divine gift stop feeling lost. How can you be lost when you carry an internal compass that always knows the way? They stop feeling inadequate. How can you lack wisdom when you're connected to infinite knowing? They stop seeking gurus. Why follow external authority when you carry divine authority within? But this is just the first aspect of the forgotten gift. And recognizing inner knowing leads directly to discovering something even more profound. Jung's second discovery about the divine gift within goes beyond knowing. It's about creating. There's a force inside you that doesn't just perceive reality, but actively shapes it. And you've been using it unconsciously your entire life. Jung called this the transcendent function. The psyche's ability to create new realities from the tension between opposites. It's not positive thinking or manifestation. It's the same force that creates dreams from nothing, heals wounds without conscious intervention, and solves impossible problems while you sleep. Every night when you dream, you witness this creative force in action. Your psyche creates entire worlds, populated with beings, filled with meaning, complete with storylines, all from nothing. These aren't random neural firings. Jung discovered that dreams are the divine gift creating realities that serve your psychological development. The same force that creates dreams is constantly creating your waking reality. But we've forgotten we're participating in this creation. Jung observed patients whose lives transformed the moment they remembered their creative divinity. Not through effort or willpower, but through recognizing they'd been unconsciously creating their reality all along, usually creating exactly what they feared or focused on. Once conscious of this gift, they could direct it intentionally. One woman came to Jung trapped in repetitive patterns. Every relationship followed the same destructive script. Every job ended the same way. Every friendship repeated identical dynamics. She thought she had bad luck or was cursed. Jung showed her something revolutionary. She was unconsciously creating these patterns through her divine gift used without awareness. Her psyche, trying to heal an original wound, kept creating situations that recreated that wound, hoping this time she'd resolve it. The divine gift was working perfectly. She just didn't know she was the one directing it. Once she understood this, everything changed. Not the external situations, her relationship to them. She realized she wasn't victim of patterns, but creator of them, and creators can create differently. This creative force operates through what Jung called active imagination. When you imagine something vividly, you're not just picturing, you're creating in the psychological realm that eventually manifests in the physical. Every invention, artwork, and innovation emerge from this realm first. Someone used their divine gift to create in imagination what later became reality. But we're taught imagination isn't real, taught to dismiss it as fantasy, daydreaming, waste of time. We're literally trained to forget one of our most powerful divine capacities, the ability to create realities through imagination. Then we wonder why life feels predetermined, why we feel powerless, why nothing changes despite our efforts. Jung discovered that the genuinely creative force within doesn't work through forcing or willing. It works through imagining and allowing. When you engage your divine gift consciously, you don't make things happen. You let them happen through you. You become channel rather than doer, vessel rather than maker. The creative force is operating in you right now, creating your reality based on unconscious patterns, fears, and focuses. The question isn't whether you're creating, you are constantly. The question is whether you're conscious of this divine gift or using it blindly. This creative force connects directly to the third aspect of your forgotten divine nature. If you're feeling something stirring inside, a recognition, a remembering, maybe even resistance to these ideas, that's actually your divine gift, responding to being named. Before we explore the remaining aspects of what Jung discovered within you, check out our new guide, True Self-Discovery, with 24 practical reflection exercises designed to help you find your way within. Click below to get True Self-Discovery. Now, let's discover what might be the most powerful aspect of your inner divinity. Jung's third discovery about the divine gift reveals something miraculous. There's an intelligence within you that's constantly working to heal, integrate, and whole you, even when you're working against it. This isn't just physical healing, though your body's ability to repair itself is part of it. Jung discovered a psychological healing intelligence that operates 24/7, trying to restore balance, integrate splits, and return you to wholeness. He called this the individuation drive, the unstoppable force pushing you toward becoming who you truly are. Think about what happens when you get physically injured. You don't have to tell your body how to heal. You don't consciously direct cells to multiply, tissues to regenerate, bones to fuse. An intelligence that knows exactly what to do takes over. Jung discovered the same intelligence operates psychologically, constantly working to heal trauma, integrate experiences, and restore psychological wholeness. Every symptom, every neurosis, every psychological struggle, Jung discovered these aren't problems, but solutions. They're the healing intelligence trying to restore balance in the only way available when we're unconscious of our divine gift. Depression might be the psyche forcing rest when we won't stop. Anxiety might be warning us about paths that betray our truth. Even breakdown can be breakthrough. The healing intelligence dismantling what needs to die so something new can be born. Jung witnessed this dramatically in his own life. During his confrontation with the unconscious, he experienced what looked like madness, but was actually his psyche's divine intelligence breaking down false structures to create authentic ones. The visions, voices, and experiences that nearly destroyed him were his healing intelligence performing radical surgery on his consciousness. One of Jung's patients, a woman with severe physical symptoms no doctor could explain, discovered through analysis that her body was speaking what her voice couldn't. The mysterious pains, paralyses, and symptoms were her divine healing intelligence forcing her to face what she was avoiding. Once she understood her symptoms as communication rather than punishment, they began resolving, not through medical treatment, but through listening to what they were saying. This healing intelligence uses everything for your development. That relationship that broke you, the healing intelligence brought it to surface wounds that needed attention. That failure that devastated you. The healing intelligence destroyed what was blocking your true path. That loss that emptied you, the healing intelligence created space for who you're becoming. But here's what we do. We fight the healing. We medicate the symptoms without listening to their message. We resist the breakdown that's trying to become breakthrough. We oppose the very intelligence trying to save us because we've forgotten its divine gift, not random suffering. Jung discovered that when people remember their healing intelligence and cooperate with it instead of fighting it, transformation accelerates dramatically. They stop seeing problems as problems and start seeing them as the healing intelligence at work. They stop resisting their symptoms and start asking what the symptoms are trying to heal. The healing intelligence never stops working. Even reading these words, it's operating, highlighting what you need to hear, creating responses that serve your development, stirring recognitions that further your wholeness. You don't have to direct it or even understand it. You just have to remember it exists and stop fighting against it. This healing intelligence leads directly to recognizing the fourth aspect of your divine nature. Jung's fourth discovery might be the most practical. You have an inner guide that's been trying to direct you your entire life. You've just been taught to ignore its voice. This isn't metaphorical or mystical. Jung documented countless cases where patients' lives transformed simply by learning to recognize and follow their inner guidance. This guide doesn't speak in words, but in feelings, synchronicities, dreams, and body sensations. It's constantly communicating, but we've been trained to override its signals with logic, social conditioning, and external authority. Jung discovered this guide speaks through what he called synchronicities, meaningful coincidences that aren't coincidences at all. When you think of someone and they call, when you need information and it appears, when doors open just as you approach them. These aren't random events, they're your inner guide arranging reality to show you the way. But we dismiss synchronicities as coincidence. We ignore gut feelings as irrational. We override intuitions with analysis. We've been systematically trained to distrust the very guidance system that knows exactly where we need to go and how to get there. Jung himself learned to follow this inner guide during his most difficult period. When rational thought failed, when external guidance proved useless, he discovered something remarkable. There was something within him that always knew the next step. Not the whole journey, just the next step. And that was enough. One businessman came to Jung at a crossroads, 2 job offers, both excellent, no logical way to choose. Analysis paralyzed him. Pros and cons lists led nowhere. Expert advice contradicted itself. Then Jung asked him something simple. Which one does your body want? The man was confused. His body? Jung had him imagine accepting each offer and notice his physical response. With one, his body contracted, breathing shortened, shoulders tensed. With the other, his body expanded, breathing deepened, shoulders relaxed. His inner guide had been screaming the answer. He just hadn't known how to listen. This inner guide operates through the felt sense, a knowing that bypasses the mind. You've experienced it countless times, walking into a room and immediately knowing something's wrong, meeting someone and instantly trusting or distrusting them. Standing at a crossroads and feeling pulled one direction despite logic suggesting another. Jung discovered the inner guide is actually the self, your divine nature, communicating through the only channels available when we won't listen directly. It uses the body because we can't think our way out of sensing, uses synchronicity because we can't logic away meaningful coincidence, uses dreams because our rational guard drops during sleep. The inner guide has been trying to reach you your entire life. Every mistake you've made happened when you overrode its guidance with external authority. Every lucky break occurred when you unconsciously followed its direction. Every regret involves ignoring what you somehow knew was right. But here's Jung's crucial insight. The inner guide doesn't guide toward success as the world defines it. It guides toward individuation, becoming who you truly are. Sometimes that means failure that frees you, loss that liberates you, endings that birth beginnings. The guide serves your soul, not your ego. This brings us to the final aspect of your divine gift. Jung's final discovery about the divine gift within addresses humanity's deepest fear. There's something in you that death cannot destroy, and you've touched it countless times without recognizing what it was. Through decades of working with the dying, observing thousands of dreams about death, and his own near-death experience, Jung discovered something remarkable. The psyche knows something about its own nature that consciousness has forgotten. It behaves as if it's eternal, creates dreams suggesting continuation, and shows no genuine fear of its own ending. Only the ego fears death. This isn't religious belief or wishful thinking. Jung observed it empirically in the psyche's behavior. The unconscious doesn't prepare for ending. It prepares for transformation. Death dreams rarely show termination. They show transition. The dying don't psychologically shut down. They often experience expansion, revelation, and connection to something greater. Jung discovered what he called the eternal aspect of the self, the part that exists outside time, unchanged by experience, untouched by physical death. You've glimpsed this eternal nature in moments when time disappeared, when you touched something infinite, when you knew yourself as more than your body and biography. Every experience of beauty that stopped time, that was your eternal nature recognizing itself. Every moment of love that felt infinite, that was your divine gift remembering its true scope. Every creative absorption where hours passed like minutes, that was you operating from the timeless dimension you always contain. But we're taught to identify with the temporary, our bodies, our roles, our achievements. We forget the eternal dimension and then wonder why we fear death, why aging terrifies us, why loss devastates us. We've identified with the costume instead of the one wearing it, with the role instead of the actor, with the temporary instead of the eternal. Jung discovered that people who remember their eternal nature lose their fundamental anxiety, not because they believe in afterlife, but because they experience themselves as more than temporary form. They still grieve losses, still feel pain, still experience human emotion, but underneath operates an unshakable knowing that what they truly are cannot be destroyed. One woman facing terminal diagnosis told Jung she'd discovered something extraordinary through her approaching death. "I thought I was losing everything, but I'm finding something that can't be lost. There's something in me watching my body die that isn't dying with it. Not my soul or spirit, something more immediate and real. The same thing that's always been there, watching my whole life unfold." This eternal nature isn't separate from your human experience. It's what makes human experience possible. It's the screen on which your life plays, the awareness experiencing your experiences, the consciousness having your thoughts. It's been there every moment of your life, unchanged by any experience, untouched by any trauma, undamaged by any loss. Jung's complete picture of the divine gift within you changes everything. You carry inner knowing that needs no external teacher. You possess creative force that shapes reality. You have healing intelligence constantly working for your wholeness. You contain an inner guide that always knows the way. You are eternal nature that death cannot touch. This isn't New Age philosophy or religious doctrine. Jung discovered this through empirical observation of thousands of psyches, including his own. The divine gift operates whether you believe in it or not, whether you're conscious of it or not, whether you remember it or not. The tragedy isn't that we lack this gift, it's that we've forgotten we have it. We search outside for what exists inside, seek from others what we already possess, try to develop what's already developed, try to learn what we inherently know. If you're feeling a stirring, a recognition, maybe even grief for all the years you didn't know this, that's your divine gift awakening to itself. It's always been there, waiting for you to remember, operating even in your forgetting, guiding even when you couldn't hear it. Jung's message is simple but revolutionary. Stop seeking outside what already exists inside. Stop trying to become what you already are. Stop developing what's already complete. Stop learning what you already know. Instead, remember, turn inward. Listen to the knowing that doesn't come from learning. Feel the creative force that's constantly operating. Cooperate with the healing intelligence. Follow the inner guide. Rest in the eternal nature that's always been there. You've had this divine gift all along. You just forgot. And forgetting was perhaps necessary. How else could you have the joy of remembering? How else could you experience the journey home to what never left? If you're ready to remember your divine gift more fully, subscribe to this channel where we explore Jung's discoveries about the profound capacities within human nature. To dive even deeper into Jung's revolutionary psychology and what it means for your spiritual awakening, click the recommended video on your screen now.